Woman fed a homeless black man. An hour later, he handed her a note that shocked her. In a bustling city restaurant named Sapphire Bistro, a young woman, Emily, displays an act of kindness that would change her life forever. A homeless man who wanders into the restaurant is treated with disdain by the employees, following the manager's orders. Emily, however, chooses empathy over prejudice and feeds him, even paying for his meal. Unknown to her the true identity of that homeless man. Emily, a vibrant young woman with a radiant smile, was the embodiment of dedication and warmth at the Sapphire Bistro. Her eyes sparkled with a genial light, and her hair, a lively brown, was tied in a neat ponytail. With her apron on, she bustled around the restaurant, her laughter and melodious tune among the clatter of cutlery. Even during the busiest hours, she was a symphony of efficiency, charming patrons with her diligent service and charisma. On this day, she clocked in at the Sapphire Bistro just as the morning sun peered over the city skyline. The rhythm of the restaurant was familiar, a comforting melody to her routine. The aroma of freshly brewed coffee filled the air, mingling with the buttery scent of croissants and the faint notes of bustling urban life outside the restaurant doors. Suddenly, the harmony of the morning was interrupted by an uncommon sight. A man whose threadbare clothes and weathered face revealed a harsh life on the streets stepped inside. The restaurant's ambiance faltered as customers and employees alike turned to look, their expressions veiled with thinly disguised discomfort. Emily watched from behind the counter, her heart sinking as she saw her colleagues regard the man with disdain instead of empathy. At the helm was Mr. Bradley, the manager, a man known more for his stern demeanor than his compassion. His eyes narrowed as he scanned the homeless man, his lips curving downward in a clear display of disapproval. Without wasting a moment, he issued a swift command to his staff. "Refuse service and escort him out," he ordered curtly, turning a blind eye to the man's humbly polite request for a meal. Emily, however, found herself unable to adhere to the unjust order. Her heart swelled with sympathy for the man, and a disquieting sense of indignation at the unwelcoming atmosphere created by her colleagues. Every lesson of kindness she learned, every instinct of empathy within her, recoiled at the thought of turning the man away. The warmth in her heart cooled into resolve, steeling her as she decided to break ranks. She walked over to the homeless man, her smile gentle and welcoming, a stark contrast to the chilly reception he'd received so far. She took his order with a respectful nod, her defiance a silent protest against the prejudice prevalent within the bistro's walls. As she served the man, Emily wasn't merely a server breaking rules, but a beacon of compassion, challenging unkindness. She reminded all present that day about the essence of humanity, kindness, and respect for all, irrespective of their status or appearance. Unbeknownst to her, this act of defiance would not go unnoticed, but would instead steer her life towards a new and unexpected horizon. With a heart as warm as the coffee she served, Emily approached Max, the disheveled man who stirred the Sapphire Bistro's tranquil morning. He appeared as a stark contrast to the urban chic decor of the restaurant, a symphony of blues and grays. His clothes were worn and patched, his hair unkempt and his skin weathered, etching a story of hardships and survival. Yet there was something in his eyes that resonated with Emily, a quiet dignity that was as poignant as it was humble. His voice was soft, almost drowned by the restaurant's ambient noise, as he requested a simple meal. Emily found herself drawn to his humility, touched by his peaceful acceptance of life's harsh realities. Responding to his request, Emily whisked away to the kitchen, returned with a steaming plate of food, a hearty meal of roasted chicken, mashed potatoes, and fresh vegetables, the flavors of comfort and home emanating from it. As she served him, she maintained a respectful demeanor, treating him with the same courtesy and kindness she extended to every patron of the Sapphire Bistro. Emily's empathy didn't stop there. She engaged Max in a gentle conversation, asking him about his day, his favorite books, and the city's best parks, careful to steer clear from prying into his personal life. She aimed to provide him with not just a meal, but also a sense of dignity and companionship, even if temporary. To her, Max was not just a homeless man, but a human being, deserving of kindness and respect. When the time came to settle the bill, Emily, with subtle discretion, paid for Max's meal. She saw it not as charity, but as a small act of solidarity, a gesture of understanding that at that moment Max needed it more than she did. It was an act that underlined her belief that kindness should not discriminate based on appearances or circumstances. Max, moved by Emily's compassionate approach, thanked her profusely, his gratitude reflecting in his misty eyes. He had walked into the Sapphire Bistro expecting rejection, but had instead found unexpected kindness. As he prepared to leave, he handed Emily a folded note, his fingers trembling slightly. His voice, filled with sincerity, requested her to open it only once he was gone. Emily watched Max shuffle out of the restaurant, his silhouette blending with the busy cityscape outside. As the door closed behind him, she found herself holding the note, a symbol of their brief but impactful encounter. The folds of the note held a mystery that she could unravel only after his departure. Little did she know that the simple piece of paper would soon pave the way for an extraordinary turn of events in her life. With the bustling energy of the Sapphire Bistro settling into a quiet lull, Emily stood at a corner table, her gaze fixed on the folded piece of paper in her hands. The note, a simple object by all appearances, seemed to hold a magic pull, beckoning her to unveil the message concealed within. As her fingers delicately unfolded the crisp paper, her heart pounded in her chest like a drum, echoing in the vast expanse of her curiosity. The handwriting was neat and slightly shaky, each letter painstakingly etched as though they bore a significance that went beyond words. Emily started reading, her eyes gliding over the words, each sentence revealing a piece of an extraordinary puzzle. As she consumed the letter, the world around her seemed to blur, the ambient noise fading into a hushed whisper. Max, the homeless man she had served earlier, was not who he seemed. Instead, he was the owner of the Sapphire Bistro, the man whose reputation of success and philanthropy often echoed in the employees' casual conversations. He had donned the guise of a homeless person to evaluate the character of his employees, to understand how they treated those less fortunate in life. Max had penned down his gratitude in heartfelt words, praising Emily's kindness and humility. He thanked her for the meal and the warmth she had shown him, a stark contrast to the reception he had received from the rest of the staff. His words were not just an acknowledgment of Emily's actions, but also a tribute to her character. In a surprising turn, Max invited Emily to a meeting the next day at the bistro. There were no specifics about the agenda, just a simple request for her presence. Emily was left reeling from the revelation. The homeless man was the owner, and now he wanted to meet her. Her mind whirled in a vortex of questions, surprise, and a tinge of nervous excitement. That night, Emily lay awake in her modest apartment, her mind too consumed by the day's events to succumb to sleep. The rhythmic ticking of the clock echoed in the silence, each tick a reminder of the approaching dawn and the meeting it held. She found herself replaying the day's event, every detail etched in her mind like a vivid painting. Her heart oscillated between anxiety and anticipation, like a pendulum swaying under the influence of time. What would that meeting entail? Was she in trouble for disregarding the manager's instructions, or was there a different purpose altogether? The questions played in her mind, an endless symphony that held her captive. Despite the uncertainty, Emily felt a strange sense of calm. She was proud of her actions, and no matter the outcome of the meeting, she wouldn't change a thing. As the night gradually gave way to the dawn, Emily braced herself for a day that promised to be anything but ordinary. Emily stepped into the Sapphire Bistro the next day, her heart pounding like a drum echoing through the grandeur of the restaurant. The scent of fresh coffee and baked bread filled the air, the sounds of the city muffled by the closed doors. The bistro, usually bustling with activity, was eerily silent, its seats empty, its atmosphere tense with anticipation. Waiting for her was Max. Gone was the disheveled man she had served the previous day. Instead, he stood as a figure of elegance and authority. His suit was perfectly tailored, its navy fabric a stark contrast to the homeless garb he had donned before. His hair was neatly combed and his posture exuded confidence, yet his eyes still held the same warmth and humility. Max greeted Emily with a courteous nod and gestured for her to sit. The room was silent, the tension palpable as he began to speak. His voice was steady, the words resonating with authority, yet carrying an undertone of disappointment. Max spoke of his experience at the bistro the previous day, expressing his disappointment at how the staff, led by Mr. Bradley, had treated him when they believed him to be homeless. He spoke of his disgust at their lack of empathy and compassion, his words echoing the regret of a leader disillusioned by his team. With a deep sigh, Max revealed his decision to terminate Mr. Bradley. The manager's actions had not only encouraged the staff's disrespectful behavior, but it also contradicted the values that Sapphire Bistro stood for. Emily could only listen, shocked at the unfolding revelations. Then came the surprise that left Emily gasping. Max, his gaze steady and sincere, offered her the position of manager. He spoke of how impressed he was by her kindness and integrity, her character shining like a beacon in the haze of discrimination and prejudice. Max believed Emily embodied the values he envisioned for his restaurant: compassion, respect, and dignity. Emily sat in stunned silence, the weight of Max's words sinking in. The server at Sapphire Bistro was being offered the manager's position, a leap she hadn't imagined, especially under such circumstances. The homeless man she had served was now offering her an opportunity that could change her life. Max's faith in her was humbling and empowering at the same time. It was a testament to the power of kindness and respect, a validation that her act of empathy had not only been noticed but appreciated at the highest level. The shock slowly gave way to the sense of anticipation. Emily, aware of the challenges that lay ahead, felt a surge of determination. She knew she had the opportunity to make a difference, to mold the bistro into an establishment that embodied the values she held dear. The new day marked not just a new chapter in Emily's life, but also a promising new era for the Sapphire Bistro. Emily sat across from Max, her heart racing like a wild horse across the plains of her emotions. She was a whirlpool of shock, gratitude, and anticipation, all stirred into a potent cocktail that left her slightly dizzy. The unexpected promotion from server to manager was overwhelming, yet the weight of the responsibility didn't feel burdensome. Instead, it felt like a challenge, an opportunity for growth. With a respectful nod, Emily accepted the offer. Her voice was steady, her words filled with gratitude. She was eager to honor Max's faith in her, to fulfill the promise her new role held. From that moment on, Emily wasn't just an employee at the Sapphire Bistro, she was its guiding light. Adapting to her new role was challenging, yet Emily rose to the task with a grace that inspired her colleagues. She was no longer just a server pouring coffee and taking orders. Now she was running the show, making decisions and leading a team. Despite the rapid transition, she never lost her essence of empathy and humility. Under Emily's leadership, the culture at the Sapphire Bistro began to transform. She cultivated an environment of respect and kindness, establishing these as core values for the team. She advocated treating every customer with dignity, irrespective of their appearance or background, emphasizing that a person's worth isn't determined by their clothes but by their character. She led by example, her actions reflecting her beliefs. The staff, initially wary of the sudden change, started to embrace the new values, their attitudes gradually shifting. The bistro, under Emily's leadership, began to feel different. It wasn't just a restaurant anymore. It was a symbol of empathy and respect, a haven of kindness in a world that often seemed devoid of it. Max's faith in Emily proved to be well-founded. The Sapphire Bistro thrived under her leadership. The restaurant's popularity grew, not just for its delectable cuisine, but also for its warm atmosphere. Patrons appreciated the respectful treatment they received, their reviews praising not just the food but the service as well. The bistro was flourishing in a way it hadn't before, its success a testament to Emily's effective leadership. Emily's story wasn't just about a woman who rose from a server to a manager. It was a narrative of kindness and empathy triumphing over prejudice. Her journey served as a reminder that respect for fellow human beings should never be underestimated. It underscored the importance of treating everyone with kindness regardless of their